Anne is a young, brave, and determined girl. She lives in a mountainous rural area where her daily life is closely linked to nature and the wild environment. She is not only a farmer, but also a good hunter, with extensive knowledge of how to survive in the deep forest. One day, Anne decides to take on a big adventure in her life. She will live for a long time in the forest, relying only on herself and what nature gives her. One of the biggest challenges Anne faces is finding and hunting food to sustain her life. Wild boars, a dangerous animal but also a valuable food source, become her main target. To hunt wild boars, Anne knows that she needs to use her intelligence, skills, and experience to make an effective trap. And this is the story of the process of a girl named Anne making a wild boar trap to survive in the forest. Anne spent time walking around the surrounding forests, looking for traces of wild boars, such as footprints, droppings, and other signs of their presence. She also carefully observed the routes that wild boars often travel, the areas where they often stop to feed and drink water. From this information, Anne can choose the most suitable location to set the trap. Preparing tools and materials is the next important step, and brought with her a sharp jungle knife, a sturdy rope, and some fishing line. In addition, she also prepared other materials available in the forest, such as tree branches, vines, and rocks to use in the process of making the trap. After carefully studying the terrain and the habits of wild boars, Anne decided to choose a location near a small stream in the forest. This is where wild boars often come to drink water and forage. She noticed that the area was densely wooded, making it easy to hide and set traps without being detected. The location was also on a natural trail that wild boars often use to travel between feeding areas, and believed that this was an ideal place to set traps because there was a high chance of catching wild boars as they passed through, and decided to use a simple but effective type of wire trap. This type of trap works on the principle of pulling a trigger cord, causing a loop of wire to tighten around the wild boar's leg or neck when it passes through. To make this trap, Anne needed some natural materials, such as trees, vines, and a few large stones to secure it. After completing the design, Anne began assembling the parts of the trap. She fixed the trigger branch into the pre-dug hole, then tied the rope to another branch and placed the loop right on the ground surface. And also prepared some small branches and dry leaves to hide the entire trap. Assembling the trap required meticulousness and skill, and had to make sure that the trap was assembled correctly, without any negligence, because even a small mistake caused the wild boar to detect and avoid the trap, and checks the entire trap one last time before leaving the area, making sure everything is ready and in place, and knows that setting up traps doesn't always work the first time. After setting the trap, she spends time testing it and monitoring the results over the next few days. If she finds that the trap isn't working or isn't effective, she's willing to adjust and improve the design to increase her chances of catching wild boar. And regularly returns to the trap area in the early morning and evening when wild boars are most active. She observes the tracks around the trap, checking for signs that wild boars have passed through. If necessary, and moves the trap to another location, or changes the design to better suit the actual situation. After many days of perseverance and effort, Anne finally succeeded in catching a large wild boar. When she checked the trap early in the morning, she found that the trap had been triggered, and a wild boar was stuck in the wire, and felt extremely happy and joyful because her efforts had been rewarded. Catching wild boar not only provided a valuable source of food, but also a testament to Anne's perseverance, skill, and intelligence. She knew that in such a survival situation, every small success could be the deciding factor between life and death. After catching the wild boar, Anne used the food processing skills she had learned from her family and experienced hunters. She started by cleaning and dividing the wild boar meat into different parts for easy storage and processing. In addition to grilling, Anne also used the wild boar meat to make other dishes such as soup and stew, making use of all parts of the animal to avoid waste. She also learned how to preserve the meat by smoking or drying it so that it could be used in the following days. Through the process of making traps and hunting wild boars, Anne learned many valuable lessons about life and survival. If you find this video interesting and valuable, Please subscribe to the channel so we have more motivation to create more interesting videos. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.
That summer, she and a group of close friends decided to go camping in the forest to explore nature and challenge themselves. None of them knew that this forest was not just a place to walk and camp, but also a wild land, full of dangers that humans had never known. Anne, with the enthusiasm and confidence of youth, and her group of friends, she knew that no one would find her in this vast forest if she did not find a way out on her own, and began to use the survival skills she had learned from books and previous courses. She searched for water, learned to identify edible plants, and found a safe place to take temporary shelter. In the first days in the forest were a great challenge for Anne. She had to face the harshness of nature, from the heat of the day to the cold of the night, from the lack of food to the danger from wild animals, and began to feel tired and weak after many days without food and water. But she did not give up. After finding a stable water source, Anne decided to build a shelter nearby. She began gathering natural materials such as bamboo, wood, and leaves to build a makeshift hut. The work required a lot of strength and ingenuity, and knew that building a bamboo house would require a detailed plan. She began by observing the bamboo bushes around her, assessing their length, strength, and how they grew. She had read about using bamboo in construction. Once the bamboo was processed and began to build the frame of the house, she determined the location. The sound of loud bangs and trees breaking echoed in the quiet night, and listened for a while, realizing that there was a large animal moving around the area around her house. Fearing that it might be a dangerous wild animal, Anne decided to keep quiet, but she couldn't stop thinking about the potential dangers she might face, and decided to investigate and realized that she could not rely on her bamboo house alone to protect herself from this threat. She needed to find a way to eliminate. Anne was sitting in her bamboo house when she heard a loud noise coming from the trap area. The roar of the wild boar echoed in the quiet space, along with loud noises as if something was trying to escape from somewhere, and knew immediately that the wild boar was trapped. She quickly grabbed her homemade lantern and ran towards the trap. When she arrived, she saw the wild boar lying in the pit of the trap, trying to climb out, but to no avail. The trap had worked exactly as she had intended. After hunting wild boar, she immediately went to take a bath. She soaked in the cool water, and she was very happy because of the gift from nature. If you were walking in the forest and saw her bathing, what would you do? Please comment below the video with us. We have provided you with entertainment content for survival in the deep forest. If you find it interesting, please subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends and relatives. Don't forget to comment below the video to express your views on survival knowledge. After bathing, the beautiful girl had dinner. The dish was very simple and nutritious. Very delicious, right? She ate very well. Natural spring water is often cooler than tap water, which helps stimulate blood circulation. When the body is exposed to cold water, blood vessels constrict, then dilate when you leave the water. This process helps improve blood circulation, increase oxygen to organs, reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, and improve overall health. Bathing in natural spring water can effectively reduce stress and anxiety. The soothing sound of flowing water, fresh air, and the surrounding natural environment all contribute to creating an ideal relaxing space. Bathing in spring water helps the body release endorphins, hormones that help create feelings of happiness and sublimation. Bathing in natural spring water before going to bed can help improve sleep quality. The cool water temperature helps reduce body temperature, creating favorable conditions for deep sleep. In addition, relaxing in a natural environment also helps soothe the mind, reduce stress and anxiety, thereby helping you fall asleep easily.
The sudden shower and the unexpected decision. As dusk fell, heavy rain began to fall, falling from the dense canopy of the forest. The faint light filtered through the leaves, creating shimmering streaks of light on the wet ground. The pattering of the rain and the wind blowing through the branches made the forest seem more mysterious and alien than ever. The rain was not part of Anne's plan. She had not prepared to spend the night in the woods, and now darkness was quickly falling. With no time to turn back, Anne decided to find temporary shelter in the woods. "I'll be fine," she told herself, filled with hope. sense of risk and wrong move, and found a small cave hidden behind the dense trees. Although it was not very deep, it was enough to keep out the rain and keep her warm for the night. She gathered dry branches and fallen leaves to make a bed, trying to keep herself dry. Her thin coat was no match for the bitter cold of the forest night. The first night and the challenge. That night, and could not sleep. The rain continued, and the cold seeped into her layers of clothes. Despite her exhaustion, she remained alert, ready for anything. This is the beginning of the story about Ant's survival journey in the forest. If you are interested and want to continue, I can write the next parts, describing Ant's survival battle with the wild nature. What do you think? And recalled the survival tips she had learned from previous trips. She began looking for food. Besides water, and also needed to find food to maintain her energy. She started walking around the area near the stream, looking for wild fruits or herbs that could be eaten. The plants she had read about, such as ferns, banana leaves, and some fruits that grew on low trees, gradually appeared. However, not all hunting and making traps. Although these things could keep her alive for a few days, and knew that she needed more than that, the first result. After a while, and returned to check the trap and couldn't help but be happy to see that a small animal had been caught in the trap. Although she felt a little sorry for this little life, and knew that she had to survive. She brought the rabbit home and prepared it as her first meat meal since getting lost in the forest. And felt her body gradually recover after eating enough. She sat by the fire, looking up at the starry sky through the trees, telling herself that she had to stay strong. Tomorrow will be a new day, she thought, building a shelter. Day 2, preparing for longevity. And woke up as the sun was high in the sky, its rays filtering through the trees, illuminating the lush green forest. She felt stronger after having had enough energy from last night's meal. And knew that if she wanted to survive, gathering materials. And headed toward the bamboo grove, using her small knife to cut straight, sturdy bamboo stalks. She carefully selected bamboo of the right thickness and cut them into shorter pieces for easier transport. This was not an easy task, and had to use all her strength to cut and drag each piece of bamboo to her temporary shelter. Sweat beaded her forehead, but did not stop. She knew that after completing the tent frame and began to attach smaller pieces of bamboo to make the roof and walls. She lined the roof with large leaves, creating a layer of protection from the rain. The tent walls were assembled from small bamboo stalks, forming a solid wall. She knew she had taken a major step forward in her journey of survival. The following days. Surviving the days. The following days, and maintained a steady pace of life in the forest. She woke up early every day, preparing herself a simple breakfast from what she found in the forest. The end of the journey. After many days living in the forest, and finally found her way out. A rescue team discovered her while they were searching for people lost in the forest. When returning to normal life, and brought with him unforgettable experiences about his own strength, patience, and ability to survive in harsh conditions.